Hey guys, welcome to my very first vlog. This is me, no makeup, nothing to hide behind. I don't have the typical teenage life that most people have. I don't go to university, I don't go to work, I am mostly housebound, and if I do leave the house I'm in a wheelchair. I have a few chronic illnesses which have changed my life in a lot of ways, and I really want to spread awareness, raise understanding, help other people see what hundreds of other kids just like me, teenagers, adults, so many people go through what I go through and nobody's aware. So I'm hoping this YouTube channel will open your eyes to a different way of life. And if you came here looking for roller coaster vlogs, exciting, every day's different, you're doing things, then you come to the wrong place, because the majority of my time is spent in my bedroom, resting, reading, painting. I have a very fulfilled life. I live with a constant high intensity headache. One of my conditions is severe pressure on the brain, so I 24/7 am uncomfortable and sore. Just the more understanding people have, the more we talk about it, the more people that possibly will get diagnosed, and the more help that people will get. And I just hope you'll enjoy watching and seeing what I get up to and see. So I thought I'd talk to you now about a couple of books that I read on holiday. As most of you know, this year I went to Burgh Island, down in Devon, 2 weeks with my family. I spent the majority of the time painting and reading. Got through 4 books. Some of the books were great, some of them weren't so great. The first book I read was a book called Us by David Nichols. David Nichols also wrote One Day and The Understudy, which are 2 of my absolute favourite books. Us is a story about a marriage. Connie and Douglas, a scientist and an artist, with a teenage son called Albie. Unfortunately, one day Connie decides to tell him that she wants a divorce, and Douglas is heartbroken. He is still so in love with Connie, he has no idea where this came from, and so he attempts to save his marriage by planning a huge family holiday, and of course nothing quite goes to plan. It was heartbreaking and wonderful at the same time. The book is really cleverly intertwined with flashbacks of their previous life together, and you see how they fell in love and the beginnings of their relationship. There was so much hope in this book. The second book I read was a book called Ashes by Isla J. Bick. An electromagnetic pulse wipes out every computer system kills thousands. Survivors of this EMP are divided into two. One half have superhuman senses, so they can hear really well, they can smell really well, and the other half have a taste for human flesh. The main character, Alex, is a girl with cancer, and she decides on a whim that she is not going to have any more treatment, that she is going to refuse everything, going to go off into the woods and walk. And even though it's a little bit unrealistic, I mean, if I decided to just completely stop all my medications, stop having any treatments, and just decide to wander off and walk in the woods for a couple of weeks, I probably wouldn't survive for more than a couple of minutes before I was unconscious on the ground. So you get to know the guy that she teams up with called Tom, and a little girl called Ellie who's 8 years old, and they sort of become a family unit. I really struggled to understand some parts of it. It seems like the type of series that you have to read them one after another to be able to even understand what's going on or to remember things. It wasn't a very remarkable, memorable book. The third book I read was Lies We Tell Ourselves by Robin Talley, and oh my god, this book was incredible. I absolutely fell in love with it from the first chapter. It's set in 1959. This girl called Sarah is the very first black student at the all-white school, and nobody wants her there. There's a girl called Linda who is the daughter of the town's most vocal segregationists, and Linda mimics everything her father says. She is completely and utterly opposed to the idea of having black students at her school. The two girls are forced to work together on a project, and at first the clashes between them are unsurmountable. But as time goes on, the two girls start to realise that they're not that different, and that black people aren't disgusting, smelly people that Linda's been told they are all her life, that they are human and that they have lives and they have feelings and thoughts just like white people do. I cried and I laughed throughout the entire thing. If I were to tell you to read just one of the books I'm talking about, it would be to read this one. The book also has really strong LGBT themes. The two girls' feelings for each other develop so quickly, and the book dives into the difficulties of teenage crushes and fancying someone, but actually how difficult that is when you are coloured in a segregated community and when you are gay in a don't ask, don't tell era. When you strip everything away, it's just two people falling for each other. There's an amazing quote from the book that I absolutely love, and it's, other people will try to decide things for you. They'll try to tell you who you are, and remember, no matter what they say, you're the only one who really decides. And I thought that was so poignant. I loved it. The final book I read was Why We Broke Up by Daniel Handler, and it's about two teenagers who dated for a month. He is a jock and she is a artistic, quirky kid, and the book takes the form of a letter written after they broke up, left in a box on Ed's doorstep, along with a collection of objects that are obtained over the course of their relationship. So cinema tickets, presents. The book is absolutely full of gorgeous artwork. If I were to write a book, this is what I would do. I would have loads of pictures. The only downside of this was the content of the book. I wasn't particularly invested in these characters. I didn't find them particularly well developed or formed. I found it quite a depressing, sad type of book. There was nothing about it that was incredible or fantastic, and I just felt that it was a little bit of a disappointment. Why We Broke Up should have been quite an empowering, motivational, inspiring moment to say, I'm better than this, but it didn't come across like that. She didn't have the strength that I hoped that she would. but I did love the illustration. So thank you so much for watching today's video. It was filmed over the course of a week, but I find it a lot more manageable to film little and often and edit those pieces together rather than exhaust myself by keeping going for hours and hours and hours on end. I hope you enjoyed, and I will see you next week. Bye!